Welcome back to Hidden Faith. I hope you're doing well today and thank you for spending your time here. This episode goes straight into a topic many people have heard about but rarely see explained clearly: the pagan roots of Christianity. Christmas, Easter, and even the cross are central parts of Christian tradition. But their origins go back to older European festivals, symbols of the sun, and rituals connected to seasonal cycles. These ideas existed long before Christianity became a major religion. In this video, we're going to look at how early Christianity grew inside the Roman world, where people already followed many gods, celebrated seasonal festivals, and used symbols connected to nature and the sky. Instead of rejecting everything, Christian leaders adapted some of these traditions and gave them new meaning. Our goal is simple: to understand how religions change when cultures meet and why familiar holidays and symbols look the way they do today. No mysticism, no dramatic language, just clear history, presented in a way that makes sense. To understand why Christianity carries so many elements from older pagan religions, we need to look at the world in which it first developed. Early Christianity did not appear in an empty space. It grew inside the vast Roman Empire, where people followed many gods, practiced seasonal rituals, and celebrated festivals tied to nature, agriculture, and the sun. These traditions were strongly rooted in daily life, and no new religion could ignore them. This leads us to the central question of the episode. Why would a rising religious movement adopt symbols, holidays, and rituals from older belief systems? The answer is more practical than mysterious. When a new belief enters a culture with established habits, celebrations, and shared symbols, it rarely replaces everything at once. Instead, it blends with what already exists. This blending helps people accept the new ideas without feeling disconnected from their familiar world. In the case of Christianity, this process happened gradually. As more Roman communities joined the new faith, church leaders realized they needed a way to make Christianity feel more relatable and less foreign. One effective strategy was to reshape existing pagan festivals into Christian celebrations. Another was to reinterpret familiar symbols, like the sun, the cross, or seasonal rituals, and give them new meaning within the Christian story. This wasn't deception, it was adaptation. It was how religion survived and expanded in a diverse empire where culture, politics, and belief constantly interacted. Much of this blending wasn't planned as a single project. It happened over centuries as different regions brought their own customs into the growing faith. Understanding this helps us see Christianity not as a separate world, but as a religion that evolved through contact, negotiation, and cultural exchange. It also explains why many Christian holidays feel connected to nature, the sun, and seasonal cycles, because these themes were already important to the people who first shaped the religion's public rituals. In this episode, we're going to break down these connections clearly, compare specific symbols and festivals, and see how a complex cultural mix eventually formed the traditions we know today. To understand how Christianity absorbed older traditions, we need to look closely at the world of ancient Europe, especially Greek and Roman culture. These societies were shaped by polytheism, seasonal festivals, and rituals tied to nature. People honored many gods, each connected to a part of life: the sun, the harvest, the ocean, war, fertility, or the changing seasons. Religion was not separated from daily life. It was part of farming, family routines, political events, and public celebrations. One important idea in these cultures was cyclical time. Life moved in repeating patterns: winter, spring, summer, autumn. Many rituals existed to mark these transitions because survival depended on rain, sunlight, and crop growth. Festivals helped people feel secure, reminding them that the cycle of nature would return every year. Among these traditions, the Roman winter festivals were some of the most influential. Saturnalia, held in December, honored Saturn, the god of agriculture and renewal. It was a loud, joyful festival with gift-giving, feasting, decorations, and temporary social freedom. For many Romans, it was the happiest time of the year. Later, another celebration joined it: Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, honoring the sun's return after the darkest days of winter. It symbolized light overcoming darkness and promised the beginning of a new cycle. Springtime also carried major meaning. Almost every ancient European culture had rituals celebrating rebirth, fertility, and the return of life. In Greek and Roman traditions, this included festivals for goddesses tied to growth and renewal. Elsewhere in Northern Europe, people practiced rituals involving eggs, hairs, plants, and symbols of new life. These ideas would eventually influence Easter traditions. Symbols were equally important. The sun was a universal emblem of power and protection. Circles, crosses, and radiating shapes all appeared in ancient art because they represented the solar cycle. These symbols existed long before Christianity, and they were widely recognized by ordinary people. When Christianity later spread across Europe, these images did not disappear. They simply took on new meanings. Another major influence came from Greek mystery cults, religious groups that practiced initiation rituals, symbolic meals, purification rites, and reenactments of divine stories. Many early Christian practices, such as baptism and communal meals, developed in a world already familiar with ritual washing, symbolic rebirth, and sacred gatherings. Roman temples also shaped the physical environment. Their architecture used grand columns, altars, incense, candles, and processions. These elements made religious spaces feel ceremonial and important. Later, as Christianity grew, many of these architectural features and sensory elements were adapted into Christian worship to create a familiar atmosphere. It's also important to remember that the Roman Empire was a multicultural world. People from different regions brought their own gods, customs, and rituals. When they interacted, traditions blended naturally. This blending was not seen as strange. It was a normal part of life. Many Romans believed that honoring more gods brought more protection, so when new beliefs appeared, they were often added rather than rejected. By the time Christianity began spreading, this environment had existed for centuries. People were used to symbolic festivals, solar worship, seasonal rituals, and religious imagery connected to nature. For Christianity to grow inside this world, it had to interact with these customs. It could not replace them instantly because these traditions were tied to the rhythm of life: planting seasons, harvests, family gatherings, and community identity. Understanding these origins helps us see why early Christians adopted familiar dates, symbols, and rituals. They were working within a system shaped by older beliefs. The new religion grew on top of existing cultural foundations, and over time it reshaped them. How Christianity absorbed, reshaped, and redefined older pagan festivals, symbols, and rituals. In this section, we're going to walk through the process step by step. Instead of treating Christian adoption of pagan traditions as one big idea, we'll break it down into clear examples. Each example shows how early Christian leaders worked inside the Roman world, responded to local customs, and slowly transformed familiar symbols into new expressions of the Christian faith. This process wasn't a secret operation or a hidden agenda. It was a practical approach that helped people shift from old traditions to new beliefs without feeling disrupted. When you watch how each tradition changed, the pattern becomes easy to see. We'll explore 4 main areas: Christmas and the Roman winter festivals, Easter and the spring rituals of renewal, the cross and older solar symbols, rituals, architecture, and clothing shared with Greek-Roman religion. Let's take them one at a time. Christmas and the Roman winter festivals. Today, Christmas is one of the most important holidays in the Christian world, but the choice of December 25th and many familiar Christmas customs come directly from Roman traditions. Why December 25? The Bible doesn't give a date for the birth of Jesus. Early Christian communities celebrated it at different times, some in March, some in April, some in May. The date wasn't fixed for over 200 years. So, why did the church choose December 25? Because it was already a major holiday in the Roman world. 2 festivals shaped this date. Saturnalia, a joyful festival honoring Saturn, the god of agriculture, held from December 17th to December 23rd, included gift-giving, feasts, candles, greenery, and role reversals. Houses were decorated with wreaths and evergreen branches. People exchanged small presents like fruit, candles, or figurines. Much of this sounds familiar because these customs survived through Christmas. Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. On December 25th, Romans celebrated the return of the sun after the winter solstice. It marked the rebirth of the sun when daylight slowly began to increase again. This day already symbolized light overcoming darkness, a new beginning, hope after the darkest part of the year. So when Christianity grew, church leaders didn't choose the date at random. They chose a day people already felt connected to. The rebirth of the sun became the birth of the sun. It was a clear redefinition, familiar timing, new meaning, shared customs. Many Christmas traditions have roots in Saturnalia, gift-giving, feasting, lighting candles, decorating with greenery, public gatherings, week-long celebrations. Even the tone, warm, cheerful, generous, comes from these older festivals. Why adopt these traditions? Because stopping a popular festival was nearly impossible. Instead of fighting cultural habits, early Christians reframed them. People didn't have to lose a celebration they loved. They only had to see it differently. This blending helped Christianity feel natural inside the Roman world. Easter and the spring rituals of renewal. Unlike Christmas, Easter does have clear roots in the Christian story, the death and resurrection of Jesus. But the symbols and timing of the holiday reflect much older spring traditions. Spring rituals before Christianity. Across ancient Europe, spring marked the return of sunlight, the start of planting season, the end of winter scarcity, new life in nature. Because of this, many cultures celebrated festivals for goddesses of fertility and renewal. In the Roman world, festivals for Cybele, Venus, and Persephone. In Northern Europe, rituals for Eostre or Ostara. In Greece, mysteries of Demeter and Persephone. In Egypt, celebrations of Osiris rising. These festivals often included eggs, symbols of new life, hares or rabbits, symbols of fertility, green branches, ritual bathing, sunrise ceremonies, themes of death and rebirth. These symbols survived because they were visually clear and deeply rooted in daily life. Why Easter falls when it does? Easter follows the Jewish festival of Passover, but its seasonal meaning matched existing spring rituals. People already expected a celebration during this time of year. The egg and the hare, the modern Easter egg and Easter bunny aren't from the Bible. They come from Germanic spring symbolism, pagan fertility festivals, ancient European folk traditions. Early Christians didn't reject these symbols. They gave them new meanings. The egg became a symbol of the empty tomb. The hare became a symbol of new life, shared themes. Easter and older spring festivals share core ideas: death, rebirth, darkness, light, winter, spring, scarcity, abundance, old life, new life. This made the Christian message easy to connect with existing cultural expectations. Adoption, not replacement. People didn't stop celebrating seasonal renewal. They simply learned to connect that renewal with the resurrection story. The emotional logic stayed the same, even as the religious meaning changed. The cross and older solar symbols. The cross is the most recognizable symbol of Christianity today. But crosses existed long before Christianity. The universal shape. Across ancient cultures, the cross shape, two lines crossing at right angles, represented the four seasons, the four directions, the cycle of the sun, the balance of life. In many cases, the cross appeared inside a circle, forming what we now call the solar cross, the wheel cross, the Celtic cross. These symbols were widespread in Rome, Greece, Egypt, Celtic Europe, Mesopotamia. Why the cross had power? To ancient people, the solar cross marked the sun's movement across the sky. It connected time, nature, and stability. It was simple, universal, and instantly understood. How Christians redefined it. Early Christians didn't use the cross as a public symbol for centuries. It became more visible after Emperor Constantine adopted Christianity. At that time, people in the empire already recognized sun imagery and cross shapes. Constantine's famous vision of a cross in the sky, "In this sign, conquer," fit naturally into a world that already linked crosses with the sky and divine protection. As Christianity spread into Northern Europe, the cross merged with local solar traditions, which is why Celtic crosses have circles around them. Early Christian art often shows radiant cross forms. Christ is sometimes depicted with solar halos. The form stayed the same. The meaning changed. Rituals, architecture, and clothing. Beyond holidays and symbols, many aspects of Christian practice came from earlier Greek and Roman religion. Incense, candles, and altars. These were standard in Greek and Roman temples. They served to create a sacred atmosphere, purify space, mark a transition from ordinary life to ritual. When Christians built churches, they kept these elements because people associated them with reverence and ceremony. Processions. Roman religion used processions for festivals, funerals, military celebrations, and temple rituals. Early Christianity adopted similar forms for Holy Week, saints' feast days, church inaugurations. Again, the structure stayed the same. The meaning changed. Baptism and purification rituals. Ritual washing existed long before Christianity. Greeks used purification baths. Romans used ceremonial washing before entering temples. Mystery cults used water to symbolize spiritual cleansing. Christian baptism took these familiar ideas and connected them to the story of Jesus. Communal meals. Mystery cults often shared a sacred meal to represent unity. Early Christians did the same with the Eucharist, giving the practice new theological meaning but using an older pattern familiar to Roman converts. Priestly clothing. Roman religious officials wore special garments during ceremonies, long robes, sashes, colored fabric to mark rank. Many Christian vestments developed from these forms because they communicated dignity and authority in a visual language people already understood. Church architecture. Many early churches used the basilica layout, a Roman public building form because it was already associated with gatherings, legal authority, public importance. Temples also influenced columns, high ceilings, use of incense, decorative art, sanctuary spaces. The physical experience of worship remained familiar, even as the content of the faith changed. Why this blending worked? Across all these examples, one pattern is clear. People accept new ideas more easily when those ideas feel familiar. Early Christians didn't try to erase cultural habits. They didn't tell people to abandon the festivals, symbols, and rituals they grew up with. Instead, they offered a new meaning, built on top of the old structure. This blending reduced resistance, helped Christianity spread, kept communities stable, allowed flexibility across different regions. It also showed a practical understanding of human behavior. People don't change their identity overnight. They shift gradually, especially when the new belief system respects parts of their old life. Understanding the blending between pagan traditions and early Christianity helps us see the religion in a more realistic and historical way. It didn't grow through isolation. It grew through interaction, through constant contact with cultures that already had their own rituals, symbols, and seasonal celebrations. When we look at this blending directly, without dramatic language or abstract theories, the picture becomes straightforward. Christianity adapted because adaptation made survival possible. One of the main reasons for this blending was political practicality. The Roman Empire was diverse and people came from different backgrounds. If leaders wanted Christianity to become a unifying force, it had to feel familiar to ordinary citizens. Keeping existing festival dates, reusing popular symbols, and keeping recognizable rituals helped reduce cultural friction. Instead of creating conflict, it allowed the new religion to enter daily life smoothly. Another reason was cultural continuity. People across the empire were attached to their traditions. Festivals such as Saturnalia or spring rituals were not just religious events. They were part of family life, community gatherings, and seasonal routines. If these traditions disappeared suddenly, it would have caused resistance. By reshaping them instead of removing them, Christianity offered people a way to keep their yearly rhythms while connecting them to a new narrative. This blending also shows something important about human behavior. People respond better to ideas that feel familiar. When the early church gave new meanings to symbols like the sun, the cross, or the egg, it wasn't manipulating culture. It was speaking a visual and emotional language people already understood. These symbols carried memories, hopes, and shared values. Christianity aligned itself with those values instead of fighting against them. Finally, this mixing of traditions reveals how religion and politics were closely linked. Emperors, bishops, and community leaders all understood that unity came from shared celebrations. A religion that respected local customs had a better chance of building loyalty, stability, and long-term influence. When we connect all these elements, politics, culture, psychology, and daily life, the story becomes clear. Christianity grew not by replacing the old world, but by growing out of it. The faith people recognize today is the result of centuries of negotiation, blending, and cultural exchange. When we step back and look at the whole picture, a simple truth becomes clear. Christianity did not appear in isolation. It grew inside a world already full of symbols, seasonal rituals, and cultural habits. Instead of removing those traditions, early Christian communities shaped them into something new. This approach made the transition easier for people who lived through it, and it helped the new religion gain acceptance across the Roman Empire. One key takeaway is that no religion starts from zero. Every belief system inherits something from the world around it. Images, stories, dates, or shared social practices. Christianity followed the same pattern. It kept familiar forms but offered different meanings. Another point is that symbols survive because they work. A cross, an egg, a winter celebration, or a spring ritual carries emotional weight. These symbols stay alive because they remain useful to people's lives, regardless of the religion attached to them. Finally, understanding these connections helps us see history with less confusion. It shows that religious change is usually gradual, practical, and shaped by everyday human needs. When cultures blend, traditions blend with them, and new ideas grow from old foundations. Thank you for spending your time here today. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. I hope this episode helped you see the connections between ancient traditions and early Christianity in a clearer and more practical way. Understanding how cultures blend doesn't take anything away from the story. It simply shows how real people lived, celebrated, and adapted over time. If you found this video useful, consider giving it a like. It helps the channel reach more viewers who enjoy straightforward, well-explained history. And if you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do that so you don't miss upcoming episodes. Most importantly, let me know in the comments what topic you'd like Hidden Faith to explore next. Your suggestions help shape future videos and keep the conversation moving. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next chapter.